Let's talk about knot puzzles. Knot puzzles are the insultingly easy puzzles that crop up in games quite often, and they don't seem to have any purpose other than to waste your time. I'm going to tell you why they're great. Here's an example. There's a high cabinet and there is a key on top of it, but you're too short to reach the key. Oh no, what are you going to do? And the solution to the puzzle is that there's a box 3 feet away. You have to drag it over here and climb up on it. What a puzzler, right? Hard to figure that one out. Or you're running around in Zelda and there is a cracked wall. What are you going to do? You're going to bomb it. Not a lot of lateral thinking here. The wall is marked bombable, so you bomb it. Some people would say this isn't a puzzle. I would agree. These are both not puzzles. That's kind of the point. These are tasks. Why do these exist? What do they accomplish? What's the point? These tasks force you to interact with the world in a specific way. This allows us to build the world, build the avatar, and build our relationship between the two. This task tells us that Link is the sort of character that notices weaknesses in the enemy's defenses and blasts through. He'll push through walls. He can be delayed but not stopped. That's the kind of hero he is. On the other hand, this tells us that we're quite small, and doing even relatively trivial tasks involves going out of our way to configure the world in our favor. It takes a ton of effort for us to do things that everybody else would consider trivial. That's the kind of hero we are. These work. These are fantastic tasks. These help to build the reality of our game. They don't tell us the plot. They don't do anything like that. They're just here to build the reality of the world, the reality of the character, and the interactions between the two. Once we understand that this is the point, we can start to design our tasks to enhance that. We can design our tasks around that concept. Let me give you an example. The game I covered for being bad at reusing content was also bad at puzzles. In the first portion of the game, you have to find all of the doodads before you can leave the house. And the doodads are just on shelves. They're just randomly on a shelf. And you just pick them up, which means that it's a pixel hunt. You run through the house looking for things that glitter. That doesn't help us in any way. There's no interacting with the world. There's nothing special about our interaction with these objects. There is nothing to this that helps to define the world, the character, or our relationship between the two. Anybody in any world can pick something up off of a shelf. Later on in that game, and part of the game I didn't cover, there's a broken elevator. And in order to make it work, you decide to get 6 jugs, fill them with water, and use them as counterweights. This is truly miserable. It is just the worst experience. You got to pixel hunt for 6 jugs, and then you've also got to trek around the entire area, filling them with water, and then carting them up to the platform, which is literally as far from the well as possible. It's clearly a task set up by someone who thought, oh, I've got to have them spend time on this, rather than, oh, I've got to make it connect them to the world. But between the two of these, this is better. Because it's something that only our character would do, and only in this situation. Now, it could be substantially better. Let's think about this. What if we wanted to make this puzzle, or this task, really help us connect to the world and the character? How would we set that up? Well, the point here is that the lift needs counterweights. The lift is just not capable of lifting us on our own because we're too heavy. So we get a jug, we fill it with water, we put it on the counterweight stand. And then our character says, that doesn't seem to be enough weight. So we get a second task, do it again. And we put it there, and she should say something like, well, you'd think that would be enough weight, but it's not working. It just rattles. And just when you think that she's going to say, maybe there's like a gear that I need to replace or something, instead she says, let's add more weight. And so you go and you find another jug, you fill it with water, you bring it back, you put it on the counterweight platform. And at this point, it's clear that there is way more counterweight than you need. And she's standing over there trying to get it to move, and it's jerking and not quite moving. And she says, That should be enough, but it doesn't seem to be. Let's add more weight. Now, I think 4 would be plenty. I don't think we would need to go through 6. But the point here is we established that she's the sort of person who doesn't approach puzzles in any sort of reasonable way. Her solution to every puzzle is to just add more weight. Keep applying pressure until something cracks. And even at the end of this puzzle, what happens is that 4th gallon jug, or that 4th jug of water, ends up breaking the elevator and flinging us up into the ceiling or something. It gets us moving forward, but it obviously isn't how the elevator was supposed to work. This would be so much fun. The idea that the character in an adventure game doesn't try and solve puzzles. They just keep applying more pressure until something cracks. That's a fun character to have in an adventure game. We would still need to be a little bit careful about how we get the jugs, though, and where the water supply is. The idea that we would have to pixel hunt for the jugs or walk all the way across the entire domain to fill it with water, those are both wasteful. Pixel hunting is never going to help you engage with the world because you're literally just trying to figure out where the sparkles could be. And walking all the way across the world over and over and over is also no fun. Instead, we would put the water supply fairly close to the elevator, and we would also want to make it clear how you find the jugs. We can do that by making the jugs part of the world in a way that makes sense. For example, maybe every house has an empty jug in it that we can use. And yeah, we need 4 jugs, but we don't need the 4 jugs. There's 15 or whatever. We just need any 4 jugs. And the point is we understand that these are just everyday, ordinary jugs that were used by the citizens here to hold water. So yeah, there's plenty of them. Or there might be a jug depot, and all but 1 jug are broken. So we get that 1 jug, and then we need more. So we go back to the depot to see if we can find more. And we find that there is a box outside one of the windows where someone is climbing through, and that box has a jug in it. And, we can create stories out of how we place our jugs. This doesn't cost any additional assets unless you could make it cost additional assets, but you can set these things up so it doesn't. It's just a matter of how you place them to build your world's reality. The whole point is that instead of pixel hunting, we are engaging with the world. We're understanding the world better. How about picking junk up off of shelves? Well, picking junk up off of shelves is pretty much the worst possible action. There are some exceptions, which we'll get to, but for the most part, you don't want to pick something up off of a shelf as a way to move forward. Instead, we want to be able to interact with the world in a way that builds our nature. We want to understand the world better. We want to understand ourselves better. We want to understand the situation better and how we're interacting with it. Which means that when we're going to pick something up, there should be some aspect of interacting with the world. Here's an example, right? There's a stack of books. It's a haphazard stack of just random books and magazines and stuff. And we find that there is a key up on top of it. How do we get the key? Well, this could be anything. We could knock over the stack of books and get the key. It's a pretty trivial action, but it tells us who we are. We are willing to knock over someone else's property. It looks expensive, and just get rid of it in order to grab the key. Or maybe we're the sort of person who refuses to knock the books over and instead goes hunting for a stick or something that we can fish the key down with. Maybe we knock it over anyway at the end, right? Now, depending on your engine, a stack of books might be something that is hard to animate falling. So, it really depends on your constraints there. What you can do will depend on the content you have and the way you can move it. But the point here is we're interacting with the world. From a functional perspective, we're just picking up a key. But we're not doing it off of a generic shelf. We're doing it in a way that establishes that this world exists and that we interact with it in very specific ways. How about just picking it up off of a shelf, though? Can we make just picking it up off of a shelf more interesting? And the answer is yes. We can put a door in front of it. Right? door, but that doesn't seem very significant, right? Are we talking about something like, oh, well, there's a door in front of it, so we have to go find a key? And no, I mean, we can just put a door in front of it and have you open the door and then pick up the key. Nothing else. No puzzle, no task. Why would this be of any use? Because having an ordinary interaction with the world tells us that we're in an ordinary situation. If we see a key through a glass door and we just casually open that glass door and it goes squeak as it opens in a very casual way, we understand that we are comfortable here, that the glass door is just a normal glass door, everything is perfectly normal, there's nothing strange. And that's sometimes exactly what we need to define. That's sometimes exactly what we want to say. Maybe later on we'll turn that around. We'll show how the character is either at peace or really not at peace in weirder situations with zanier setups. And it reverberates better because we've already established that they were perfectly comfortable opening this glass door. We could also play around a little bit. Maybe they're not comfortable opening the glass door. You go to open the glass door and you animate it. So they reach down and they grab it and they give it a tug and it doesn't open. So they really, really tug it hard and it flies open and clatters loudly. That tells us so much. There is no one thing that opening doors will accomplish. It's not like the act of opening a door always tells the player this thing. The point is that you can make that act of opening the door do whatever you need it to do in order to create the effect you want. And that's talking about being able to see through a glass door into a key that we know we're looking for. But if we don't know that we're looking for a key, or if the door is opaque, can we work with that? Sure. There are lots of things you can do. You can do an almost unlimited number of things, and that's the whole point, right? Let's say that we are just looking through shelves for stuff. How do you animate that? Well, what do you want to say? If I wanted to say that our character was the sort of person who would just dig through everybody's private stuff erratically, just in the hopes of finding something interesting, then that's what I would animate. I would have it so that whenever you click on one of these doors, it doesn't just go and swing open nice and tidily. It goes whap and then bounces back to a 90-degree angle after hitting the other door jamb. And I would have the character have like a fling open animation rather than just a casual open animation. And maybe I would even have the character like say, whenever there's nothing inside, just like, I can accomplish these tasks by understanding what I'm trying to do. If I want the player to see the character as the sort of person who digs through random crap to just find whatever's there, then that's how I'll animate it. That's how I'll set it up. If they're more nervous about it, then they'll have the same basic result, but the animations will be different, some of the sound effects will be different, and the point there is that this task can serve any number of goals. I have to understand what I want to say, and then I can say it with the same task, just tilted a little bit, just a little bit different here and there. This is something that I think a lot of indie devs sometimes overlook. They think of their puzzles as the goal. They think that, oh, I need to add something for the player to do, so we'll make them pick up 6 things. But in my mind, the key is that these tasks exist to solidify the world. They make the world exist. They make the character exist. They define the relationship between the character and the world. That's why these tasks are the way they are. They're not just something for the player to do. I hope that's clear. Let me know if you agree or disagree. See you around.